Right, hi. I haven't done a video like this in about 6 months where I just sat down and spoke to everyone. For those that don't know, I haven't checked out my channel. I went traveling over Europe for 2 months by myself. So I haven't, been around to sort of do any of these videos, but I thought I'd do one now since it's been so long. As per usual, this is going to be like an asexuality based one because a lot of people are subscribed to my channel for that content. And recently I have been getting a lot of comments on those sort of videos and my past videos that I uploaded months and even years ago, some of them. So I thought I'd do like a little update on that and like what I've learned from traveling and also like people's perceptions, because there were a few people, only a handful of people that I did come out to as asexual, sometimes because I had to and sometimes because it felt right. So I wanted to get into those now. So my first story comes about, funnily enough, in the country that I first visited. And now I actually went to this country with a friend of mine. We actually flew out together from my local airport. He sort of treated that as like sort of a holiday before I embarked on like 2 months of traveling by myself. So that was like the one country that, we went to together and flew to together before, he went back. So it was nice to actually, have, somewhere to go to together. And that was sort of the start of my journey. So it was actually quite nice to sort of be eased into it with somebody. And it was a really, really good time in Malta. So I'm really grateful for that. That's sort of a bit of necessary information that to know that I went with him, because it sort of covers the rest of your story. You'll see why. So we both made a Tinder account, funnily enough, in Malta, and just wanted to see what it was sort of like, because we both had Tinder experiences in this country, and we sort of always like sort of joked about it, and we just thought it'd be fun and just funny to see and just intriguing. And we both matched with this same girl. I won't say names or anything like that. But she actually lived off an island off of Malta called Gozo. And I planned on visiting Gozo anyway. I'd booked a tour around Camino, which is again another island off the coast of Malta. And I was planning to go to Gozo anyway. So she was sort of the perfect opportunity to go to Gozo and actually have like a tour guide and even somebody to see there and can, point out the good spots to see. So that was really, really good. So we actually made a day of it and we both went to see her and visited her. So before going to Gozo and traveling, I'd been speaking to this girl on Tinder for a while. Like we had really good conversations on this app, and like when I was staying in my hostel there, and it was obviously still quite a new experience to me. Me and my friend actually were in different hostels. We stayed in different hostels for some reason. So I was alone a lot of the time, and he was alone a lot of the time. So I was speaking to this girl on Tinder, and we had like every night we had chats until like 2 a.m. and we were just chatting on this app, and we had so much in common. And she found out that I was asexual, and I told her that, and there was like no judgment at all. Like there was nothing. She didn't care. She found it interesting. There was sort of no judgment at all. It didn't affect her perception of me whatsoever, and it was really, really positive. And when me and my friend went to Gozo and travelled there, I still had it in my head that it would be like it would affect her perception. And also the friend that I went with, like, girls go for him, let's just say that. Like, he is a lot more physically attractive than me, and he has a lot more confidence that I just don't possess. And I'm quite jealous of him, and and how he looks and everything like that. But it's always been the case, when I've been on nights out, it's just him that gets the female attention. That's fine, that's the way it is. He tries a lot harder than me on his physical appearance, so fair play to him, respect. But with this girl, I thought it'd be the same. I went to the island with him, and they were talking a lot, and they seemed to get on a lot more than me and her, so I just ruled everything out, really. And it wasn't until I went to the toilet, and my friend was quite sad because he liked this girl as well. And he was quite sad, and I was just like, what's the matter? And he said, she really likes you. She really likes you. I was like, what? Me? Like, what? And it was like really surprising. I just remember her because she worked in a bar on the island of Gozo, and she was giving us like free drinks the whole night because she worked in there. It's just like we were her visitors, and then she showed us around the whole of the island. Incredible day. And this was one of my first days of my travels, so incredible day. And I was just grateful by that. But we ended up getting along and talking more, and we ended up like being really close at the end of the night and even kissing. And that was such a nice experience for me, and there was never any sort of emphasis on my sexuality or emphasis. It didn't affect any of the situation. It wasn't even brought up to her at all. It was actually brought up to my friend that night, and he sort of disagreed with a lot of it, but to her, no, like it just didn't affect it, and it was really, really refreshing. And to think that it wasn't even in my country, but in this island of Gozo off the coast of Malta, and she knew about it and she accepted it, and was really, really, really nice to see, and it was a perfect start to my journey. So that's story number one. So not all of these stories actually revolve around like dating or meeting girls and telling them I'm asexual at all. It actually, one of the stories was actually when I went to Budapest, which was actually the next city I visited and flew to from Malta, where I met these two guys in my hostel, and one was from Norway and one was from Finland. They were both solo travelers. The guy from Norway was actually traveling to Budapest for a dental treatment, you know, not just to travel, but he was traveling there, and then he stayed in our hostel. So I met him, and we, you know, when he was free, we went out for like meals and did stuff together. Same with the Finnish guy. The Finnish guy was a teacher in Finland, learned a lot from him. Amazing guys. And we went for drinks one of the evenings, and all three of us had, you know, a couple of drinks, and we were quite tipsy from it. And they were both telling stories, and they were both like being really open about themselves. And for some reason, it just sort of, I told that they were getting very, especially the Norwegian guy was very, very sexual and very, very like open about this and how he was, sort of thing. So I thought I'd tell him this, and because it was, you know, I just wanted to see his reaction. Obviously, it was one of the last nights I had with him and the Finnish guy as well. So I thought I wanted to see their reaction and how these different cultures sort of reacted to it. So I told them that I was asexual, and now neither of them knew what asexuality was, or neither of them accepted it either. I remember the Finnish guy, as soon as after I came out to them that I was asexual, the Finnish guy, when the Norwegian guy went to the loo, wouldn't talk to me. Like, it was really silent, and like it was such an awkward moment afterwards, from talking to him all the time beforehand in the hostel, and then when we went for dinner and stuff, to afterwards going for drinks, and then saying that I was asexual, to him ignoring me after this. It really, you know, it was such a big thing for some reason, and it was made to be this big thing. So it really interested me in terms of their reaction. And when I came out, the Norwegian guy, his reaction was, he just looked at me, and he looked at me really seriously, like really intensely, and just shook his head at the end of it, like he was really thinking about it and trying to work it out. And after about, you know, 25 minutes, like out of nowhere, I think because he was really drunk, he came out with it again. Like, we hadn't even been talking about it, but he just like, you know, have you never tried it? Like, surely you like this? Do you never masturbate or anything like this? And he was really, really stumped by the idea of it, and thought it's just not possible. But he like led everything. It was like, you're such a nice guy, why don't you? Or something. You're such an amazing person. Why don't you? Like it. So it's almost like he had such a positive viewpoint as me, but then me telling him this, it just sort of dropped his perception of me right down, which is such a shame. But it doesn't make much sense, and it shouldn't. You know, it doesn't make sense. And I know I'm not in the wrong for this, and the fact that his perception is like this is wrong in itself. But it did really interest me. I've gone beyond the case of like, because I've had so much of that in the past, you know, I don't care. Like, if people's reactions are like that, then fair enough. Like, it's who I am. Like, I'm not gonna, you know, be really upset about it or want them or try and get them to accept me anymore. It's just fair enough. Like, I'm never gonna see these people afterwards, and I didn't. I'm not in touch with either of them now. You know, I knew that was going to be the case anyway. A lot of the friendships that you make through solo traveling, unless you really get on, are really short-lived. So the fact that, you know, it didn't really affect me that they felt like that, it just interested me to see their perceptions. So I sort of, obviously I can't generalize that to like the whole Norwegian population or the whole Swedish population, but I can, you know, the fact that both of those individuals showed that is really interests me. It was a very different perception to how I was perceived by the girl in Malta. So the third story that I'm going to say when I was traveling was actually when I was in Croatia. So I'd just arrived in Croatia, actually, in Zagreb. I'd taken a bus from Slovenia, from Ljubljana to Zagreb. And the second night I was there, I met this girl again on Tinder, because I sort of, it really intrigued me using Tinder in Malta with my friend, so I thought I'd use it in other countries, but mainly to meet more people. I know that sounds weird because it is a dating site, but I did meet a fair few people through that just, some of them were even in my hostel, you know. So it's quite cool. I really enjoyed meeting new people, especially people from that country and stuff. So I could be like shown around or even just make friendships. I think that's really lovely, and it was a really good way to do that because it seemed like a really popular app amongst a lot of people. So I met this girl through Tinder, but she wasn't Croatian at all. She was actually just working in a hostel in Croatia, not my hostel, funnily enough. But a hostel in Zagreb. There was so many of them, so it's not surprising it wasn't mine. But we went for drinks. She actually invited me out for drinks, and like it wasn't something that I asked her. She was like, you know, it'd be really cool to get to know you. Do you want to go for a drink this evening? And it was really sudden. Like it was within like 45 minutes of her asking me, we were already like meeting and going for drinks, which was really, really nice, really spontaneous. Something I'm really like, you know, I like the spontaneousness of it. So that was really nice. We went for drinks. It was such a nice evening. I ended up spending like the whole evening with her. Like we met up at like 6 p.m. and I didn't go back into my hostel until 2 a.m. And it just flew by. It was such a nice evening. Now, the evening was cut short. Like it could have been longer, and it seemed like it was going to be longer, but I told her about my sexuality. So we went to multiple different pubs and we had many a drinks. It was a really nice evening. I found out a lot about her. The fact that she actually lived in Sweden despite being American. She was a music teacher. She was like such a good opera singer, like incredible. Like she seemed professional, and she teaches music in Sweden. She got a scholarship over there because she's so good. But she's originally from Seattle in America. I learned so much about her. She was such an interesting character. And it was such a nice evening, and we got on so well. Conversation flowed. I never felt awkward. It was so nice. I really liked it. And now one of the last bars we went to, I told her about this. She was very open about herself, so I got very open about myself, and we obviously got quite close that night, and I was hugging her a lot, and we kissed even in that evening. And then after I told her this, it all sort of changed. Suddenly she said, no, I don't perceive you any different. I don't perceive you any, it's I completely understand it. I know a lot of asexual people. It doesn't change you. It doesn't anything like that. But after her saying all this, she suddenly needed to go. I get that it was early in the morning, and I thought that might have been the reason. It could have been the reason. She just didn't realise the time, and it was late, and she wanted to get back. I completely understood that. We hugged, and then she left. But the thing is, afterwards, she just didn't respond to any messages. She ignored every single message that I had to send her afterwards, and just removed me. I'm not sure, obviously there might be no correlation there, but I think it's pretty clear that there is some sort of correlation, because it happened so suddenly, and her mood changed dramatically, and she suddenly needed to go, and then started ignoring my messages where she was so keen to meet up before. It was pretty gutting. It sucked. But at the end of the day, it happens. I wasn't going to meet her any other time because I had to leave for Zadar the next day. But that was it, sadly. That was the end of that. So my fourth and final story that I'm going to share to you, this video is going to be way too long, actually is another story that involves a girl. Not one I met on Tinder, finally, but one I met in real life. And now this is sort of like the biggest story because the most happened, shall we say, and it affected me the most, I think, and involved asexuality the most, to the sense that I had to tell her. Like there wasn't any, this feels right to tell them now. I had to tell her because of what was going on. So I went to Venice as another location I went to, one of my favourite locations, and met the best people in Venice. One of the best days of my life was one of my days in Venice. The guys I met there in my hostel were absolutely incredible. I'm still in touch with both of the guys now. We made such a nice little friendship there, and a lot of the people that were in our hostel thought we were travelling together because we spent the days as the three of us, and it was so good. But anyway, this video isn't about that. I can cover that in another video. So anyway, I also met a girl in my hostel room, and she entered on my second night there, and holy moly, this girl was stupidly attractive, like annoyingly attractive. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought, you know, this girl's really, really attractive. Fair enough. You know, it'd be cool to speak to her, but didn't think of anything more. Started chatting to her. She was from Oxford. She was from the UK as well, which is quite cool. Very posh. She went to a private school, an all-girls private school. Really lovely, really friendly girl. Anyway, so as I say, this girl was stupidly attractive. As in, like, we went down to the bar for the evening as a hostel dorm sort of thing, like all together, because we'd all met. So there was a big group of us, and when she went up to the bar, she got all the free drinks from the bartender and from other guys as well. One guy bought her a bottle of champagne from the bar, like, just because they liked her. She was stupidly attractive. Fair enough, and I'm very jealous of the free drinks, I guess, because I could have really done with them. But anyway, it's not about that. So she was getting all these free drinks, and but she was really lovely as well, and really, really friendly. I learned a lot about her. We were speaking a lot of that night, and she started getting very touchy with me, as in, like, she used to put her arm around me and, like, touch my chest, and, like, even not when we were alone, but also around people, like I was sort of like her boyfriend or something. And it became, you know, I was quite taken aback by this, like, why is she so forward to me? And then she told me that, you know, she actually quite liked me, and I was just like, okay, fair enough, yeah, I quite like you too, to be fair. And things happened, and you know, we started kissing and everything like that, and we were very, very close throughout the whole evening. And then, you know, one thing led to another, and we were back at the dorm, and I thought we went back to go to sleep, because it was 2:00 in the morning. And you know, obviously I tended to go to bed somewhat early during my travels, because I needed to be up the next day to explore, because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to spend all my time partying or anything like that, because I can do that back here. I wanted to explore the sites and stuff like that, and that's what really interested me more. So I tended to go to bed somewhat early. Obviously we're in the same dorm room, so when we got back to the dorm room, she goes, "Come on then." And I'm like, "What?" You know, I went to go back to bed, and she was like, "Come on then." And so we ended up going onto her bed, which was a top bunk, annoyingly, right by the door as well. And then we started kissing some more, which was nice. And I do enjoy that. And people that know me, you know I enjoy that and the build up. So I wasn't complaining. As I say, she was just stupidly attractive. So fair enough. But then we got, you know, I said to her, I'm not going to have sex with you. I hope you know that. I didn't say why. I didn't want to say why, because I didn't want to ruin this, because she was really lovely. And as I say, we were talking a lot of the night as well. So it was really nice like that. And she goes, no, we just won't have sex up here. And I'm like, no, as in, like, I genuinely won't have sex with you. She goes, yeah, no, don't worry, we won't have sex. And then she started removing all of her clothes, like all of her clothes. She was, like, completely naked. And I was just like, no, I'm being fucking serious. I'm not having sex with you. She goes, oh, come on. It's just, you know, why don't we? And I'm like, no, I'm just not going to. I just don't want to. And she goes, right, okay, let's just continue then. So we continue kissing and stuff like that. And then she just tried it even more. I'm like, no, look, I don't like sex. I'm asexual. And then as soon as I said that I was asexual, she sort of took her hands off of me. She sort of, like, went back and drew herself back, and, like, sort of, like, in the corner of the bed, as if it was, like, as far away from me as possible. And I was just like, holy shit, I wasn't expecting that reaction. And she was like, what? I'm like, I'm asexual. I don't like sex. And I'm like, oh, but we're kissing and stuff. Like, what's the matter with you? And I was just like, I'm sorry, I didn't say before. You know, it's fair enough. You know, I sort of accepted the reaction, like, fair enough. I don't know how I'd react in that situation. So I said, like, if you've got any questions, like, I'd be pleased to tell you. Like, I think you're great. You know, we had a really good chat. I don't want to ruin that. And it's nothing against you. It's just how I am, how I perceive it. She goes, nah, just fuck off now. It's too much. So I went back to my bed, and I couldn't sleep for fucking ages thinking about it, and I couldn't get it out from my mind. So I went back to my bed and slept. The next morning, I was speaking to the other guys in my flat, and obviously in my dorm, and then obviously she was there too. And I remember sitting on one of the other guys' bed when we were talking, and just looking up at her, and she just kept staring at me. and I could tell she felt like so guilty or something in her eyes. And, you know, we exchanged numbers from that night, and I got a text from her on my day out with the guys when we explored the islands in Venice, because there's like Murano, Burano to visit. And I got a text from her whilst I was out with them saying, I'd really like to see you tonight. I'm missing you today. Would be really cool to go for dinner with you tonight. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, the message made me just feel so, you know, warm and fuzzy inside, I guess. But it was just really out of the blue, and it's what made it such a nice day, because I was having such a nice day with these two guys. I get very lonely here. I don't have anything like that because all of my close friends live too far away. I just don't see them much. So the fact that I could spend the day with these two guys in Venice and then have this fucking awesome girl, you know, say, you know, ask me again to dinner, despite me telling her I was asexual that night. I was just like, yeah, of course, you know. So I went for dinner I met her again that evening. We were very close again. We went for a really nice walk in Venice, of all places, whilst the sun was setting, just together outside. We've been really close. Like we've been together for ages. It felt so comfortable and it was really nice. And again, it resulted in the same thing. But this time when I went up to her bed, we just were talking rather than having sex. We were just, obviously we didn't have sex first, we were just talking. But, you know, she still didn't accept that. Like, she still wanted, even though we were talking a lot more, there was still, are you sure, you know, you don't want to have sex? You sure you don't want to do this? Oh, come on, just keep going, you know, when we were making out and stuff, and go further. And she sort of didn't accept the fact that I didn't want to go beyond making out, which I guess is what, you know, some people, you know, the way society is and the way that we're conformed, you know, is sort of like the norm to go further when you're in that situation, I guess. So I'm not sure if I blame her for that or not, or what I blame. I don't blame myself, but it was a confusing one, and it's why it never really extended beyond that, because I was never, you know, there to fuck her, basically. I was never there to have sex with her, and it's clear that's what she wanted, and that was a big part of, you know, what she was trying to get from me in that scenario. So anyway, the same was said for the next day. The next day again, I saw her, and it was actually my last day in Venice. And she even, like, I was leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to Switzerland, to fly to Switzerland. And she said, wake me up, I really want to say goodbye to you before you go. I'm really going to miss you, all of this stuff. And it was really, really nice, the bond that I'd formed with her. But again, it just wasn't, I know there was, like, I couldn't have ever saw that, you know, extending to anything else in reality, because I wasn't going to have sex with her ever, and I knew that was a big thing for her. So rather than, you know, extend it to anything further, I didn't really, you know, we still kept in contact for a bit once I got back home, but ultimately nothing came of it because of that. It's a shame. It is a shame. I don't speak to her now. I haven't spoken to her in about 2 months. Keep in mind, all of these things happened between May and July. It's now October, so you know, it doesn't feel like that long ago since it happened. But yeah, really, really interesting story, and I still remember it. I think you can tell I remember it really vividly, because it was such a big aspect of it. And although, like, I didn't let asexuality or anything like my sexuality at all be a big thing during my travels. Keep in mind, those were the only 4 times it actually came up during my 2 months alone traveling, when, you know, I was meeting new people every day. I was staying in hostels, so I was meeting 6-7 people every day on average, and speaking to so many people. And the fact that it only came up 4 times seems about right. You know, I don't let it be a big thing at all. It's just not. It's not something that should come up or needed to be. But I sort of wanted to share these encounters with you, since that, you know, my channel is orientated around asexuality, and I think these would be quite, you know, some quite interesting stories for you to hear about. And if you did, leave a like, because it's been a while since I've done one of these sort of videos, so it'd be interesting to see if you're still here. You know, the people that always used to watch my videos and are expecting this sort of content again. Here's another video for you. I'm really glad I made it, because it is quite interesting talking about it, and the differences between, you know, where I am, even though that last girl was English as well. So, you know, it's not a difference in culture at all, but the fact it happened in Venice was pretty cool, and I'll always remember that. So yeah, thank you for watching. Leave a like and a comment. I'd love to hear any stories that you may have, or what you think of my stories, and I'll speak to you very soon.